then say, okay, let's meet somewhere in the middle. Okay, they got the unhealthy, and then just dwell on an improvement, because it's at a certain point it's about moving the needle in the right direction. And that's kind of all life is. If you want to make big gains or big losses, just take that needle and move it, just past the equator, and if you'll wind up at the North Pole or the South Pole. And eventually you'll wind up there. It's just a matter of when. And even on the way there, you'll be excited about the gains you're making, and it'll give you a little more momentum. Be easier to move that needle. So I would start with just making your choices better. And there are good guys to listen to, the nutritionist. I'm trying to think of the one I started listening to. It's Vinny. He's like the personal trainer to the stars or whatever. Tortorich. He's on the Adam Carolla show, and they're really good. They're really smart, and by no means am I trying to equate myself with them, but at least I could give somebody a different, kind of the same or as good a message as I can, but with a different kind of bullhorn, maybe one that's just louder, and or some people may say one that's more annoying, but it's one of those things to where sorry, I got somebody who's distracted me. It's one of those things to where you get all these people involved, and there's going to be people that are really good, giving you good advice. Some people that are going to give you the wrong advice. But you'd be surprised, how just listening to people there's so much information out there. And you say, okay, well, how do I apply it? Well, listen to people that are telling you how to apply it too. You need an expert in every field, and if there's no excuse nowadays in the information age to fail because of, you didn't, you feel you didn't have all the information. And it's just like, I try to talk to people, say, how do I speak better? How do I do this? How do I do that? And you will get better no matter what it is, and this is no exception, because we're talking about your health. And if you can get to the point where you're keeping your momentum, it's all about you're never going to get from I guess a DNA standpoint. You're not going to get any better than you are now. You can improve, your muscles and the way you feel and the way your body functions because you're losing weight, or your blood pressure changes, blah blah blah. But your platform, I guess, is as good as it's going to be right now. And at a certain point, they call it over the hill. So once you start going down that hill, then it's harder to change. So the point is you want to get into the gym, get healthier while you're in good of shape of the rest of your life, if that makes any sense. Because if it's going to be harder to stagger into the gym when you're 80 years old, you're kind of leaning forward, you have the hunchback. You want to do that as soon as possible, because let's face it, if you can't get the motivation now, it's going to be a lot harder later. It's just going to keep on getting harder. But anybody can do it. If you could walk into the gym, you could work out. And so now that you're eating better, it's all preparation, So you're eating better, you're feeling a little bit better, and I would add supplements on that list too. There's a lot of crappy supplements. There's a lot of good supplements. So in that you could. Oh my gosh, you can get lost for days on it. And I typically, I take certain supplements for energy, not like a stimulant. Well, I do, but like caffeine or whatever, but coffee. But I take that CoQ10, I think it is. They say as you get older, you lose that in your cells, so it helps. Take the MCT oil. People say that works for your brain. I take, what else? I take calcium just in case. Probably too much calcium. That's probably why I have kidney stones. What else? Oh gosh, I take the it's Curum and resveratrol. I'm not sure the pronunciation, but that's an anti-inflammatory. It's natural, so you can keep on taking it. I think I could tell a difference. If my elbows are hurting, I take that, and it'll start to go away. And then of course your multivitamins, and I would recommend getting everything chewable, because it all goes down, and it goes down a lot easier if you could chew it and taste good. So as to whether they all work, I don't know, but it's kind of like that part in The Mummy when the mummy's coming at the guy, and he pulls out his crescent moon, his Star of David, and his cross, and he's like, one of them will work, and so just take all your supplements, and unless you hear that one is bad for you, of course, or if it's taxing your kidneys or whatever, but you find out which ones work, and because sometimes you don't reorder a certain supplement, and you forget, and you're like, oh, why am I having this problem? And you're like, oh, I stopped taking that. So just kind of do a mix between what people are recommending and what your body is feeling. Of course, don't take anything. If you got heart problems, don't take something's going to be hard on your heart or what have you. But it's just because sometimes if that will push you over the edge as far as feeling better, and you start now, because later on they may say, hey, if you take this whatever for melatonin, whatever it is, if you take it now, you could have avoided a lot. So, I put my finger in the wind, and I try not to do the magic pill, the next best thing, but I try to say, okay, here's my problem first, then research what is out there. And with reviews like on Amazon, you just go and review, then that's a great first step. And then, of course, make sure that there's no issues. Like your doctor isn't going to say, that's a bad idea, because, I know people say, oh, doctors they're not into supplements, they're just into, medicine, because in med school, the pharmacists come in and that's all they learn, because that's who funds them, blah, blah, blah. But if they see problems, and even though they may start out that way, if you and I know about supplements, they're not shielded from it. They'll find out about it, and believe me, people that sell supplements are hitting up doctors just as much. And I know that from firsthand experience with what I've done in the past. So I think I will take a quick break. Why not? And we will be back. Hey guys, we love sugar. Sugar tastes good. Problem is, it's causing obesity, it's linked to type 2 diabetes, so we switch over to artificial sweeteners, which at a certain level become bitter, and now it's linked to early dementia. In fact, if you're drinking diet sodas on a regular basis, you're 10 times more likely, studies say, in getting early dementia. So we have a sugar, it's called Next Sugar. It tastes great. It's as sweet as sugar. It's 100% on the sweetness index. Yes, there is an index for that. And guess what? It's half the calories, guys. You can bake with it, try it, get going, do your thing. Hey, everybody. I'm back. I just did the spot for Next Sugar, and essentially what that is and we got plenty of time to go into other things and other shows. We'll try to cover everything, but what I did was I've been in cells here and there. I've always loved it, so I studied it and as much as one could, and I was approached by a friend of mine. He does, he's essentially a food scientist, a food engineer. And I got to interview him one day, and I think he has a lot of good stuff to say. And, he was telling me about the sugar that he developed. So, and that's what, when you hear Next Sugar, that's essentially what that is it's real sugar, half the calories. You can bake with it, blah blah blah. But the point being is there. I'm not a good salesman. All that being said, but I am passionate, and I could get excited about something that I think works. So I help him on the side push that, and that's actually the genesis of the podcast was I'm thinking, okay, how do I let people know this? But truth be told, I do love to talk, and I think it's going to take a life of its own eventually. But it was a good catalyst, and it's kind of like the guy that likes comic books. Yeah, he's buying them for his kids. He always says that, but really he's there because that's what he wants to do. So we'll see, how that does. But in the meantime, you can order it on Amazon.com. It's a little hard to find because it's so new. It's Next Sugar. You can go to nextsugar.com. I believe it's there. And what else is it? It's also Next Sugar and Nextella with a K for the Nextella. I think if you type both of those in the search words, it'll point you there. But in any event, we'll get some traction. And basically, it's put sugar in your house with half the calories. It's a low glycemic sugar. It's a fancy word, and that's why I used to sell it. And the first thing I did when I came in is you can't go to a convention and tell everybody, I got low glycemic sugar. They're going to fall asleep. That 2 syllables into it, and we have such a short attention span. So I changed it to half calories. If it's exactly half, well, that's up to we'll have to figure that out. But essentially, it's a lower calorie sugar, and I think that we will help change some lives, with it. So. In any event, again, I'm sounding distracted because I just noticed there's a fire or something off in the distance. I see a helicopter dumping water. Great. So we have, we have, that's another tool to help. I'm all about, let's find the best tool to do it, and then eventually you have a big arsenal of stuff to help, and it will make it easier. Every little thing. And one of these, I might as well stay on the subject. One of the things he was saying is, and actually I noticed too in some articles that the sweeteners, there was one sweetener, one of their additives, which makes it a lot of different sweeteners. They all kind of share the same additives. That you're 10 times more likely to cause 10 times more likely to get dementia. And I guess what it is your brain thinks it's getting sugar, so it's kind of getting tricked, and there's no sugar, and so it confuses your brain. So that helps to add to kind of the bad wiring of your brain. And then the other one, I just read another type of sweetener they're using. It has that effect still, and your brain is secreting insulin, and then because it knows sweet. Your tongue is saying it's sweet, and then the insulin sometimes can help you to gain weight. And they're doing studies now that are saying that it may not be the magic that we all think it was. And I think different people react to it different ways, but it's by far a cure-all. Is just the diet stuff. So that's kind of why I am gravitating towards the lower calorie. I kind of cut out, and I was addicted to Monster energy drinks, the low carb ones. But reading those studies, I just read it one time, and I'm like, you know what, I'm done. So I think it said you could maybe get away with it once a week. So if I get stuck with a Kids Mill soda, I'm going to go for it, the diet stuff. But I just counter with insulin now, and of course the low calorie stuff makes it easier, but I just try to stay away from all the chemicals and everything else. And I think later on history will be on the right side of the more natural you do things, the better off you will be. In any event, so that's the latest stuff. And one thing that I want to do on this podcast and show is kind of go over health news and diabetic news that that will help to change your habits, because I think the habits are such a